beings to be moral and refined creatures. COVID is about to be overcome by human efforts, but no sooner have we overcome this human challenge that we are beginning to see the reemergence of warfare and combat. Our government is deciding whether to resume arms sale to Saudi Arabia, which will result in poor, defenseless people losing their lives, justified in the context of collateral damage. When you look at humanity, we can become very dismayed. We can become very hopeless that we do not have the ability to be righteous, good, human individuals. However, this is really not the case. There is a lot of hope in humanity. Humanity is a good place. It is a question of recognizing that and believing in that, and then to reinforce that properly. When the Blessed Prophet came to his community was steeped in inhumane, barbaric practices. Not only did they not have a sense of human values, they actually rejoiced in transgression. And in fact, transgression for them was the norm and normality. Burying daughters, taking pride in bloodshed, an exploitive social system, everything that we can think of today, which is absolute wrong in our minds and which we will not be able to justify, it did not exist in their minds. They actually rejoiced in human tragedy. At least today, when there is human tragedy, human beings feel the pain of it. And when certain individuals exploit that tragedy, they have to justify it and have to feel answerable to the rest of humanity. But back in the day when the Prophet came, creation of human tragedy was a norm, and then exploiting the situation was seen to be something that was absolutely acceptable. When the Prophet came to such people, the first thing he realized was that humanity is good. Essentially, human beings are good. He had utmost belief in the goodness of their humanity. Now, Reformation cannot come save from this belief that humanity is good. So the Prophet of Islam immediately understood, like his noble brothers before him, that human beings are essentially good. They need to be reminded of their goodness and to build on that little goodness that they have to bring about a great deal of goodness. Now imagine the way he spoke with them. He said, "You are people who are far nobler than what you have made yourselves out to be. You are grand creatures, do you not see this?" He was awakening their humanity from within. So the two things that the Blessed Prophet did was, first he awakened them to their own humanity and said to them, "You are good people." Now often we find that human beings fall into a regressive cycle, that I've done bad, I've become hopeless, I can't do any better. The Blessed Prophet remedied this by saying, forgive yourselves. If you come towards God, you start with clean slates. And that is the best process of bringing about inner success. To say to people, all the baggage that you are carrying upon your shoulders, all the memories that you have of the wrongs that you have done, all the failures that you have suffered in the past, these things are holding you from becoming better people, from arriving at your truest standing and pedestal. So the first thing you need to do is, you need to get rid of the past from your minds. Clean the slate, start afresh. This is what the Blessed Prophet did. He said, you are human beings, no matter what wrongs you have done. Allah is saying in the Quran, "La taqnutu min rahmatillah, inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a." Do not be hopeless of the mercy of God. He forgives all sins. And in fact, upon analysis, we will see that this is a very potent way of getting a human being back on the track of growth and evolution. That we say to them that you are innocent, you are forgiven, start afresh. If a student were to carry the memory of previous failings, then the student will never succeed. They need to erase that memory and with full confidence start once again. But then the Prophet of Islam also changed the parameters of success and failure. He said to them, success is not entailed in the achievement of the bodily. Rather, success is entailed in what you become as a human by displaying the gems of humanity. So success is not attainment of the world. Success is in refining your souls to the extent that you share whatever little you have with others and do not feel a sense of loss. Rather, you feel a sense of pleasure and gain at serving each other. When he forgave them, instilled within them confidence in their own humanity, and changed the whole yardstick of success and failure, we see a nomadic community becoming literate people, explorers, scientists, barbarian becoming moral agents. People who are steeped in superstition became spiritual and began to break the shackles of their animalistic selves. In addition, he introduces God in their souls in a most meaningful way. He says to them, your task is to complete your humanity. And the agency through which you're going to complete your humanity is God. Tend to God and gain confidence in your own ability and in your own humanity. Now, today people frown upon religion. They say religions are cause for human regression. They cause strife. They cause backwardness within the mind. We need to ask a simple question. If that is so, then why is it that when religions came to backward, barbaric, regressive people, that immediately within no time the religions were able to reform them and make them finest of human beings, not only moral agents, not only spiritual creatures, but intellectual, progressive human community? What was religion doing to them then that it has been charged of the opposite today? Religions came to people who are in that backward state, in that barbaric, animal-like state, and it refined them, spurred them on to the path of human exploration and intellectual development and growth. We will have to conclude that it is not the religions that are backwards. It is the interpretations of religion. The human being has this tendency that is regressive, and the human being will use any excuse to justify this tendency, whether it is the societal systems that we have, social political systems in the name of communism or socialism or capitalism, or in the name of religion. The Blessed Prophet did not introduce religion as another system. He introduced religion as a substantive way of life, and not the code of religion, but the essence of religion, which was belief in the nobility of humanity and God as being the principle of the human existence, where God marked the fullness of human aspiration in terms of intellectual progression, moral refinement, and spiritual alignment. That is what the Blessed Prophet did. God was a factor that liberated humanity and allowed humanity to arrive the fullness of its yearnings. In this way, what we find is that actually religions are very good, but we need to examine and read religions very carefully. The central part of religion is belief in human beings' humanity and setting up God as the peak aspiration of humanity. And everything else that religion gives needs to be read in its own given context. The interactions that the religion ordains, or the social laws, the legal norms that the religion gives, these are to be seen in their own context. But the essence of religion is belief in humanity and placing God at the helm of humanity as that factor that can bring humanity to its completion. Now look at the verses of the Quran and how they liberated the people. Apart from all those beautiful moral teachings of the Quran and virtuous instructions that are within the Quran that are perfectly in line with human aspiration, the Quran instills utmost audacious confidence within the human being. The Quran says these stars and the sun and the moon are all subservient to you. They are for you to explore and to learn about. The Quran says these heavens that you see, aspire to penetrate through them, and if you do so, then they are yours for the taking. Imagine the audacity that the Quran instills within humanity. And then the Quran says that do not worry. Not only shall God forgive your sins in the process of genuine life, but beyond that, God realizes that you are created in weakness and you will end up falling in sin. But do not be dismayed. Not only shall He forgive your sins, but He will also rectify your wrongs and make your wrongs into rights. So that is a sort of confidence, religion filled within the hearts of the people who embraced Islam. I'm going to obviously conclude here and say, from a state of burying daughters, look at where God takes them in line with their deep human aspirations. A daughter is made into a mercy for the parent, not as a debt. The son is termed as a debt, but the daughter is termed as a mercy. In the form of a mother, the female is seen as the key towards salvation. Paradise lies beneath the feet of your mothers. As a spouse, she is seen as the one who completes the faith of a man. Look at the way the Quran changed the minds of these people. Look at the way it looked at discrimination. The Quran says, indeed, God has created you from a single man and a single woman. That is your origin. And the subsequent thing that happens from a single man and a woman is that you are made into tribes and nations. And you are given different languages. But the whole hope there is, that the Quran says, is that you mutually interact. And through this mutual interaction, you may begin to learn that the most noble amongst you is the one who is most God-conscious or the one who is most God-like. Finishing off sense of discrimination from the minds altogether. Discrimination not only comes in the form of color or ethnicity or statuses or cultures or nations. Discrimination also comes in the form of religion and piety or notions of piety. The Quran does away with all of that. It's just one belief in the commonality of that human inner goodness and human surge towards godliness as the completion of humanity. So these are the principles that the Prophet came with, and before him all his noble brothers came with the same principle. Believe in the goodness of humanity, utmost belief in the goodness of humanity. And stipulating God as that peak aspiration towards which humanity yearns to go and complete itself through. Therefore, we will say that human beings are good essentially, and no reform can come within the human community save by reinstilling within them the confidence in their own humanity. Now today we need the policing system, and we have police brutality. In the time of the Blessed Prophet, we did not have a policing system. Because the notion of being God mindful and ordaining to good meant that I need to embody goodness within my own self and seek the goodness of the other in the best possible way without offending them, brought about a virtuous society. Crime was next to non-existent. Greed and exploitation immediately in the time of the Prophet, as Ali ibn Abi Talib bears witness to this, Salamullah alayh, in one of his khutbahs in Nahjul Balagha, when he was lamenting at the fate of his people, and he said, "Where are the likes of the companions of the blessed Prophet amongst you?" Those people did not need to be told, be good, be righteous. They're saying, why does a noble person need to be told to be good and righteous? Your inner nobility in itself will not allow you to be otherwise. Embracing God in the rightest sense and becoming mindful of God does not allow me to do anything that makes me feel embarrassed in front of God. Proper reform does not come through policing systems and restrictions and big brother notions of monitoring people. Proper reform comes when humanity arrives at the sense of its own inner nobility. And it comes to the understanding of the presence of God, who is the absolute moral agent and serves as a moral compass, who is that agency of spiritual alignment and coming to the fullness of the godly gems that are concealed within us. So I will say this, that true reform only comes through these components: deep-seated belief in the essential goodness of humanity, and stipulating God as that principle towards which we have to arrive in order to reveal the gems of our goodness that are hidden deep within us. Today, as it was the case yesterday in the time of the blessed Prophet Moses and Prophet Jesus and Prophet Muhammad, Allah's salutations descend upon all of them and the family of the blessed Prophet. These religions are good in essence, and I think we need to explore them and these facets, essential facets of religion, and remind each other and talk about this in order to bring about that inner goodness, to cultivate it. Goodness cannot come from outside, as these blessed prophets realized. They cannot come from incentives and threats. They can only come from within, that inner, deep-seated commitment to humanity and human goodness. Can we recite a Surah Fatiha for all those who have gone before us, and for the cure of all those who are unwell, and for the goodness to prevail upon this ailing world of ours? Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وآله الطيبين الطاهرين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we read that our government is reconsidering selling arms to Saudi Arabia in its ongoing conflict with Yemen. Now, here is what happens when we move away from the sense of humanity and responsibility to our own selves, and having God as that principle and pinnacle of human beauty towards which we aspire. We begin to think in worldly terms. I can imagine the incentive for our government is the huge monetary gain through the sale of arms. That would be the fundamental and the primary one. But look at the situation and how it is. Whatever sales we made to Saudi Arabia, hundreds of times over we lost during the Brexit crisis. And the Brexit crisis were not over, and we were faced with COVID. And we lost in billions. And we are still losing. The simple equation was that the religions gave was that be kind to humanity, trust God, and God will make the world yield for you. And you will become needless through goodness. When we lose those fundamentals, we get caught up in these webs of deceit. We try to scrounge around to increase our capital. But on the other hand, we end up losing hundreds and innumerable times more. And on top of that, carrying the burden of blame upon our shoulders. How will history look back at our decision today? And how will history look at this conflict in Yemen? Think about it. Whatever the political reasons they might have and the conflict that they have, the way they're going about it, for the last 5-6 years, what has it resolved? We saw the same thing in the Middle East. Syria remains in ruins. Nothing has changed. Bashar is still there. For example, if that's the one if he was the one that they wanted to remove, he's still there. And now he's the better option than the ISIS were. Think about it. Isn't it something of an insight for us to rethink things? Now in Yemen, the country is poor. They are dying of starvation, of cholera, and now COVID. And on top of that, bombs are being dropped upon them. That makes the situation even worse. Are these not our children, these little babies that are dying? The buses that are being bombed and is justified in the name of collateral damage? Aren't these little children whose limbs are getting blown off my children? Why is my heart not paining? Doesn't that show that the heart has died inside? There is no humanity left. They are starving to death. I am rejoicing and eating. They are dying. I am happy my children are alive. My children don't get education. I'm up in arms. For them to breathe fresh air is something that they will thank Allah countless times over. What is going on? And our government can sell arms to Saudi Arabia to kill defenseless poor people and justify it in the name of collateral damage? Seriously, is this where humanity is? I hold us responsible for what is happening there. The way history is going to look back is going to be in a most negative way. They're going to frown upon us and our sense of humanity. They will say these people sold arms, and on top of that, the public remained silent, and on top of that, their hearts didn't even pain. It's an embarrassment to call these people human beings. Wipe them off the pages of history because this is an embarrassment for humanity. Do you know this? Our hands are dripping of innocent blood. Really they are. It's a joke that on the one hand we supply weapons and on the other hand we have NGOs trying to feed them. In the 21st century, hasn't human being come of age to say that there are diplomatic solutions? We can talk through these conflicts. If Saudi feels that Yemen is wrong, then sit down, we can negotiate. Why kill innocent people? And this is just one problem we are highlighting. God forbid, COVID ends and global conflicts resume once again. COVID has been the biggest blessing that it has stopped people killing each other. COVID has only killed a very fraction amount of people compared to how much we are killing. Do you know this? Not only through warfare, but through starvation. Through totally ruining the environment. Do you know how much damage we are causing? And we can just sit there and rejoice that the lockdown is over and we can resume the normality of our lives. What about those children in Yemen? What normality do they have? I don't think we are as incapable as we make ourselves out to be. We really do need to tell our government that no, this is not right. May Allah bless Mr. Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn, when he stood against selling arms to Saudi Arabia. He was a righteous man. Maybe his policies were not liked by the people, but he was at the core of it a moral human individual. But then again, such good people are seldom elected and brought into government to lead a people into a moral existence. It's a shame. We are failing ourselves. I hope to God Mr. Johnson does not sell arms to Saudi Arabia. And I hope to God that we can sit with Saudi Arabia and tell them, look, there are other options to resolve this conflict. We don't need to resort to war. Nobody is benefiting. Your country is losing, those poor people are losing. And the rest of us in the world are hopeless of our own humanity because of what you're doing. This is what happens when we lose a sense of human worth. And we lose a sense of the existence and the presence of God. Trust me, no amount of paradise promises or threats of hell will remedy the human situation. It is only when we start believing in the goodness of humanity and holding ourselves responsible for the fate of humanity. Now I'm going to finish here that the prophetic teaching in essence taught that there is no father and son genetically. The whole human community is one family. The child of another is your child. And that's why the overemphasis on the welfare of the yatim within the Quran. They are your children. These elderly are your parents. Your peers are your brothers and sisters. It's one human family. And every prophet has taught the same. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not allow us to have any arms deals with Saudi Arabia. And I hope the public does make an uproar and there is a lot of commotion so that we stop selling arms to Saudi Arabia if we are thinking of going down that direction, so that at least we are not responsible, but instead to play the role of a mediator and negotiate the terms of peace between the two countries. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammadin al-Mustafa wa ala Aliyin al-Murtada wa ala Fatimah al-Zahra wa ala al-Hasan al-Mujtaba wal Husayn al-Shaheed bi Karbala وعلى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي وحجة الله بن الحسن القائم المهدي المنتظر. اللهم عجل الفرج وسهل مخرجه واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.